Two identical boats. Same make, same year. One disappears from the listings in days, the other sits unwanted, price falling until nobody even calls. This is the great boat market split, where bargains turn to dead ends and desperate sellers watch their bargain become unsellable scrap. The market did not slow down. It fractured. The old logic, find a fixer-upper, make it yours, someday sell, no longer works. The difference is not price or age or even condition. It is something silent, institutional, and absolute. Why can the exact same boat be either an asset or abandoned? And how do you avoid winding up with a bargain no one will ever buy? A broker scrolls through his listings. Two boats side by side, both 1987 Catalina 30s, both asking $24,500, both moored in the same harbor. The first one disappears in 4 days. The second lingers for 6 months, the price slashed twice, then vanishes from the site with no record of a sale. It is not just a fluke. Brokers across the country recognize the pattern. Some boats move so quickly the listing barely posts. Notes read, sold in 72 hours, pending before the weekend. Others, nearly identical on paper, accumulate dust and digital silence. A broker's voice, clipped and tired, says, "We get calls on the clean ones with insurance quotes attached. The rest? People don't even ask for a showing anymore." The numbers back him up. A handful of boats cycle through buyers in less than a week, while dozens in the same price range sit for months, untouched. No one calls, no offers. The price drops again, and still nothing. Eventually, the listing is pulled. Sometimes the boat is hauled away, sometimes it just disappears, abandoned at a slip or quietly scrapped. The difference is not visible in the photos. Both boats show tidy cabins, recent bottom paint, crisp sails. The listing language is the same, well-maintained, turnkey, priced to sell. But the outcome could not be more different. One is treated as an asset, liquid, wanted, accepted by the system. The other is invisible, already written off by unseen rules. Buyers notice, but nobody can explain it. Forums fill with the same question, why won't my boat sell? Brokers shrug. It is not the market, they say. It is which side of the line you are on. The evidence is everywhere, hiding in plain sight. One boat gone in a flash, another left behind, unsellable at any price. A cheap boat listing sparks hope. The price looks right, the photos show promise, and the old logic rushes back. Fix it up, enjoy the water, maybe even sell for a profit someday. That is the dream buyers carry into every search, scrolling through endless ads that promise opportunity for less. But something has changed beneath the surface. The difference between an asset and scrap is no longer obvious, and it is no longer in the buyer's hands. A boat can look clean, run well, and still be untouchable. The old markers, shiny gel coat, recent cushions, a fresh survey, do not guarantee a sale. Buyers sense it when their calls go unanswered, when marinas ask for paperwork they cannot provide, or when insurers do not return a quote. The market's surface looks familiar, but the rules underneath have shifted. Cheap does not always mean opportunity. It can mean something is missing, something invisible but essential. Permission, not just condition. The right paperwork, the right insurance, the quiet approval of systems that now decide what counts as a boat worth owning. Without these, even the best deal can become a liability, a burden, or a future problem no one wants to inherit. Forums fill with frustration. Owners ask why their well-kept boats draw no interest, why upgrades do not move the needle, why price to sell brings only silence. The answer is not in the hull or the hardware. It is in the invisible lines drawn by institutions, lines that separate boats with a future from those already written off as scrap. This is the new reality, a split that is not about age, beauty, or even price. It is about whether the system will allow a boat to exist as an asset or quietly push it toward the edge. Most buyers do not see the line until they are on the wrong side. The question now is not just what you are buying, but whether you are buying something the market will still recognize tomorrow. Not long ago, buying a used boat meant joining a tradition that welcomed newcomers. Entry-level buyers could find an older sailboat or runabout for $10,000 to $20,000, sometimes less. The idea was simple. Start with something affordable, put in the work, and make it your own. Sweat. Equity counted. Owners swapped stories about weekends sanding decks or wiring new lights, each upgrade a badge of pride. Insurance companies rarely asked for more than a basic survey, if that. Marinas, eager to fill slips, focused on steady rent, not long liability documents or multi-page contracts. The numbers tell the story. In 2024, Americans spent $55.6 billion on boating, nearly 80% of that on pre-owned vessels. Over 850,000 used boats changed hands that year, dwarfing the new market. The entry path was wide, with millions of active registrations and a culture built on participation, not exclusion. For decades, this model worked. The ladder was real. Anyone willing to take on a project could find a way onto the water. Past buyers were not naive. They knew a cheap boat meant work, but the system around them supported the effort. A boat could be fixed up, enjoyed, and if life changed, sold to the next dreamer. The logic held steady. Condition and effort determined value. For a long time, that was enough. The rules felt fair, and the promise of sweat equity kept the cycle alive. Now that old ladder is gone, but its memory lingers in every hopeful listing and every buyer searching for a way in. Insurance used to be a handshake, not a hurdle. For decades, a basic survey or a letter from a trusted mechanic could open the door to coverage. Companies wrote policies for boats that were 20 years old or 30 years old without blinking. Hull age mattered, but not like it does now. As long as the paperwork was in order and the owner seemed responsible, the answer was almost always yes. Premiums were low enough to fit into any budget, and claims rarely led to dropped coverage. Marinas followed the same pattern. Their main concern was filling slips, not policing liability. Contracts ran a few pages, often month to month. Proof of insurance was a formality, not a filter. If you needed a spot for an old Catalina or a tired Sea Ray, the manager would find room, sometimes with a handshake, sometimes with a quick check and a smile. The numbers made it possible. In 2024, Americans bought nearly 860,000 pre-owned boats, making up almost 80% of all sales. The entire system was built around movement, buy, refit, enjoy, and sell. Every transaction relied on the idea that another buyer would always be waiting and that the institutions in the background would keep the cycle turning. For project buyers, this was a safety net. Even if the work took longer than planned, the boat could always be insured, always find a slip, always attract a new owner down the line. The risks felt manageable because the system was flexible. Confidence was not misplaced. It was earned by years of steady, predictable support. That support is what made the old ladder real. Without it, the climb looks very different. A buyer calls an insurance agent, eager to close on a 1989 Hunter 33. The agent listens and then asks one question. How old did you say the boat is? The answer lands like a verdict. For boats over 25 years old, most policies require a full out-of-water survey. Recent, detailed, and stamped by a certified marine surveyor. Without it, the conversation ends. No hull coverage. Sometimes, not even liability. The language is precise. One policy states no coverage will be provided for vessels exceeding 25 years of age without a current marine survey acceptable to the company. Another states coverage is excluded for hulls with deferred maintenance or undocumented refits. These are not warnings, they are filters, quietly removing thousands of boats from the pool of insurable assets. If a survey does exist, it must clear every hurdle. No soft decks, no corroded through hulls, no ambiguous notes from the inspector. A single phrase such as "needs further evaluation" can trigger an automatic denial. Underwriters do not see boats, they see documents. They scan for risk, not potential. A clean, well-loved 30-year-old sloop can be invisible if the paperwork does not check every box. The insurer logic is cold but consistent. Older hulls bring unpredictable claims, and undocumented repairs mean unknown exposure. The process is not personal, it is procedural. One underwriter puts it plainly: we do not insure hope, we insure evidence. Buyers find out only after the offer is signed, after the survey is paid for, after weeks of anticipation. The denial comes as a form letter, or sometimes just silence. The boat is not rejected for how it looks or sails, but for what it cannot prove. The insurance wall is the first gate, and it stands between the dream and the dock. The next barrier waits just beyond. A slip contract lands on a buyer's desk. Buried in the fine print, a single line stands out: proof of $300,000 in liability. Insurance is required before the boat enters the marina. No exceptions. The manager's voice is measured, almost apologetic. We can't risk it anymore. If you can't show coverage, we can't give you a slip. It's not about the boat's looks or the owner's intentions. The rule is simple: no insurance, no berth. The marina doesn't see a project or a dream. It sees a potential claim, a risk to the dock, the other boats, the business itself. The contract gives the marina broad power. If an owner's coverage lapses, the slip can be revoked on 30 days' notice, or less if safety is in question. In Florida, the law allows marinas to remove vessels for non-compliance, billing storage, and removal fees until the boat is gone. In Massachusetts, the agreement renews automatically unless terminated in writing, but the owner still carries all the risk. A surveyor steps aboard for the required inspection. Any uncertainty in the report, a note about corroded through hulls, or a recommendation for further evaluation can trigger instant rejection by both insurer and marina. We see it all the time, the surveyor says. One flagged issue and the deal falls apart. The boat never leaves the hard. An attorney specializing in marine contracts explains the trend. Liability minimums have risen with accident costs. Marinas and insurers legally require proof to protect themselves. It's not personal, it's procedure. The system does not just ask if a boat is safe, it asks if the boat is allowed. The difference between a survivor and scrap is not always in the hull or the hardware. It is in the paperwork, the survey, and the contract clause that decides if a boat is welcome or exiled. Condition matters less than permission. A salvage manager flips through a stack of invoices. Each one tells the same story: money spent, value lost. A partial refit on a tired 32-foot sloop costs $7,200 for rigging, $4,500 for engine work, and $3,000 for new electronics. The owner hoped to make the boat insurable, maybe even turn a profit. Instead, the upgrades hit $15,000 before the first insurance quote arrived. The response was simple: denied. The survey flagged old through hulls, and the insurer walked away. The marina followed, citing liability rules. The boat, once a project, now sits on blocks, waiting for a buyer who never comes. Disposal is not a simple solution. Hauling out a 30-foot fiberglass hull runs $1,200. Demolition and landfill fees add another $2,500. In some states, environmental regulations push the final bill above $8,000. One invoice shows $6,700 for a full scrap sequence, haul, cut, and dump. The owner, out of options, leaves the boat behind. The marina files a lien, then calls the salvage yard. The cycle repeats across the country. Boats that once promised adventure now cost thousands just to disappear. Refit costs rarely translate to resale. A $5,000 paint job, $8,000 in new sales, or $12,000 in engine repairs do not guarantee a single extra dollar at closing. Buyers see age, not upgrades. Insurers see risk, not receipts. The numbers are unforgiving. $5,000 to $20,000 spent on hope. $2,000 to $8,500 lost on disposal. The trap is set by the math, not the market. Money in does not mean money out. Survivor boats stand out for reasons that have nothing to do with polish or price. They are the boats that can clear every institutional hurdle. Insurable on day one, with a recent survey in hand and a title that matches the hull. Brokers know the checklist by heart. A survivor comes with documented upgrades, rigging replaced, engine serviced, receipts for every major job. The Marina contract is already signed, liability coverage is in place, and the insurer has no questions left to ask. These boats move fast because the system recognizes them. They are not just boats, they are tickets back into the cycle of ownership. Scrap boats follow a different script. The listing might promise just needs love or solid bones, but the paperwork tells another story. Deferred rigging, missing surveys, a title that has seen too many transfers, these are red flags that buyers and brokers read instantly. Even a fresh paint job cannot erase an old insurance denial or a marina refusal to issue a slip. The oversupply of these boats means no one is waiting. The longer they sit, the more invisible they become, until the only calls are from salvage yards. A broker sums it up. If I can get an insurance quote in an hour, I know I can sell it. If I cannot, it is already scrap. That is the line. The difference between liquidity and exile. The market does not reward hope or hard work. It rewards permission. Survivors are accepted, documented, and wanted. Scrap is everything left behind, no matter how clean it looks. In today's market, condition matters less than permission. The rules are not written in bold, but every buyer learns them, sometimes the hard way. Right now, the line between a dream and a liability is drawn by institutions, not imagination. As insurance standards and marina rules tighten, most bargain boats become stranded, unwanted, uninsurable, and increasingly costly to dispose of. The rules have changed, quietly and permanently. In this split market, the real risk isn't missing a deal, it's inheriting a dead end. What side will you choose? Share your take in the comments.